Okay, let's talk about Luved The Day After. So, I have a lot of notes, but a lot of my notes are just like, all right, here's like the plot stuff that happens in episode 0, here's the plot stuff that happens in episode 1, etc., through episode 3. And I realize I just don't want to talk about any of that. Not to say that like the actual plots are bad or that the things that happen are not interesting. I very much think they are. I really enjoyed my time with it. But as I was just kind of looking through them, like, all right, so I've got notes about what happens, like that. Oh, sorry, I just saw a bug on my finger. I was really confused. I got distracted. Anyways, I realized I just don't really want to talk about that. I think what I really want to talk about is what I love about Muvla. I don't want to say Muvla Vanilla, but like the original series, and then talk about what I did like about the day after and why I feel like why it's different, why it still works. So there are going to be spoilers for the original trilogy. I'll try to keep my spoilers for alternative at a minimum, but the original or like extra and unlimited, they're going to get spoiled. And a lot of the general ideas and broad strokes of the day after are going to get spoiled. Probably episode 0 as well, but then 1 through 3, I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum. So Muv-Luv, I believe it came out in like 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. So it's about 20 years old at this point. And it was 2 visual novels in one package. The first is Muv-Luv Extra, which is a very tropey, cliche, campy, over-the-top, whatever other term you want to throw in here, dating sim. There's no real gameplay. Like, it's not a visual novel or something like Phoenix Wright, Danganronpa, Somnium Files, where there's actual gameplay. Here it is just like, there's no puzzles, there's no combat, there's no world traversal. It's just read what's on the screen and occasionally, like, make a choice. Extra eventually wormed its way into my heart. I was like, this is really dumb. I don't really care. And then as it went, because like I knew the big twist, and that's what made me really interested. I was like, all right, I got to play through Extra first. It's fine. It's fine. And then by the end, I was like, okay, I am enjoying it. I'm looking forward to getting to the good shit. But I am enjoying it. I didn't do the extra routes. I just did Sumika and Maya. Jose has, all of my roommates have played Muv-Luv. He's told me, he's like, I actually think the other side routes and extra are some of the best things in the series. Like, I think the characterization that class rep Ayamine and Tama get is some of their best characterization. It's something I'm interested in checking out at some point, but I have no immediate plans to do so. But after you have finished, I've heard conflicting reports that you have to do just one route. I've also heard some people say you have to do the 2 main routes of Sumika and Maya, and then you can move on to the next game. So I can't really confirm. After that, though, you get to play on Muv-Luv Unlimited. And this is the thing I knew that got me really interested. So while Extra is this very by-the-numbers dating sim visual novel, Unlimited is an isekai. And the plot is your main character, Takeru Shirogane, or Shirogane, Takeru is his first name. So Shirogane wakes up in an alternate version of Earth. And in this version, I don't remember what year it was, but whatever, because it takes place in like 02, 03. But there's a certain point in history when humanity got invaded by an alien species. I don't remember the full name of the species, like what we call them. It's like 7 words or some shit, but they are frequently just abbreviated into the beta. Fuck the beta! Fuck these things! You don't see them in Unlimited, you don't ever encounter them in Unlimited, but you learn to hate them in Alternative. Unlimited is yeah. It's about Shirogane re-meeting most of his friends. I say most because Sumika is suspiciously missing, but all of his other friends, like, oh, you all look like people I know. You all have the same names, and a lot of parts about you are really similar, but you're still a fundamentally different person. and working on those relationships while also adapting to a new world, adapting to the life of a soldier, and becoming stronger, both physically, with all the training he has to do, but also mentally and emotionally. And I think it's really good. I think it's kind of an interesting idea, like this coming of age story where it's both an isekai and also like a fledgling war drama. I say fledgling because alternative is what it is. This is now a war drama. Holy shit. The ending of Unlimited, which I do have to spoil to be able to even talk about the day after. Like I said, the first two I'm going to spoil. Alternative, I'm going to really try to keep it to a minimum. Is humanity gets to a point where they realize, okay, we're not going to win. The beta just keeps spawning. That's the beta's biggest weapon is that there's thousands of them. There's probably millions of them. That would not surprise me. Like, they outnumber us, and they're not easy to kill. We can't do this forever. So they have this thing called the Alternative Program, which is, I believe it originally, so this is a bit of an alternative spoiler, but the program, I believe it was, we're trying to make contact with the beta to figure out, like, if we can reason with them, if we can have some kind of peace, if we can figure out what they're after. And after numerous attempts, the current one is Alternative 4, they're moving on to Alternative 5, which is, fuck communication, we're just going to nuke them. We are essentially going to nuke the planet and pray to God that they are gone. We're going to have an ARC program where we take a lot of people and send them off into space. I don't remember if they said specifically where they're going. It's like they're going to go to a new planet. Everyone else who stays behind, do what you can. Hopefully we win. Hopefully we don't fuck the planet up too bad. If you've read The Day After, you know that doesn't happen. But that's what Alternative 5 is, and that's how Unlimited ends. It ends with Shirogane. I believe it's like he gets a ticket. It's like, you are able to leave the planet and go become part of the ARC program. But one of the girls, whichever one you ended up picking, which one thing I really like about how it does its dating sim aspect, it's not like you get to the end of the game, it's like, okay, choose which one you like. Which, I mean, I don't play a lot of dating sims, so I don't know if this is actually how they normally go or not. But it's not just pick your ending. It's like, no, depending on the choices you have made up to this point, your ending is locked. It is something I care for. I know I had said in my Fatal Frame 2 video, I wish that's how they determined the ending of the game. I think in... sorry, you're getting really itchy. I think in some of the later re-releases, it might be kind of like that. I think the Wii version is sort of like that. But I wish the original PS2 was, no, depending on... Maybe it's like your time. I mean, time would be shitty. But for me personally. But it's like, depending on, like, how much health did you have throughout the game? Maybe how efficient you were. Like, how much time did you spend with your sister? To me, that's really the big one. Like, that kind of shit determines what ending you get. Makes a lot of sense to me. Muv-Luv basically does that by just kind of tallying up your choices. Like, all right, you picked that one. Okay, you picked that. So whoever you pick ends up being pregnant. Shirogane says, you're going to space in my stead. Take care of our kid. It's a very tearful farewell. She will go off into space. Shirogane and everyone else will stay behind. And that's the ending of Muv-Luv Unlimited. Muv-Luv Alternative is he gets a redo. And in his redo, he has all of his memories of his previous run. So he remembers all the shit that happens in Unlimited. He has his physical capabilities. So he's already well-trained. He has a soldier's body. And his goal is, I know what happens when Alternative 5 goes off. I know the professor is working on Alternative 4, and she's close, but doesn't quite get there. So I'm going to do everything in my power to help her finish 4, because I know 5 doesn't work. I don't know if 4 is going to work, but we have to take that chance, because otherwise we all lose. Without ever really going into what happens in Alternative 5, at least from what I remember. And so the first chunk, of Alternative is just kind of going through the beats of Unlimited. It's like speed running Unlimited. He's like, okay, I remember what happens. I know. It really is. It is just like new game. It's new game plus 100%. He's like, cool, I have all the stats of my endgame run. Let me just blow through everything. And now that he has, you get to a certain point where, okay, now things are different. And that is some of my favorite shit. I mean, it is my favorite shit of the entire series. It's Muv-Luv Alternative. I can't say it's one of my favorite games, because like I was saying earlier, there's not really gameplay to Muv-Luv. Like, The Day After literally has 0 choices. And when you're kind of doing the Muv-Luv Unlimited part of Alternative, there's a lot of choices. When it gets into the new shit, there's like none. And it is just like, oh, I'm just reading a book at this point. So I can't say it's one of my favorite games, but it is one of my favorite works of fiction. I love Muv-Luv Alternative. There's so... I remember when I was reading it, I know, I'll get to The Day After eventually. But I remember when I was reading it, and then Clay would just kind of walk by. He was like, I had it on the Vita. So he'd just be like, hey, how's Muv-Luv going? He would just say, shit's wild, bro. Like, I said that so many times. And he like, at first I think he thought I was memeing. And he's like, okay, like, it's not actually that good. You know, it's... You know, he's just playing this long joke. And eventually got to the point he's like, oh, I know you're serious now. You really like this. I kind of need to read it too. You know, it's like, I don't really want to get into a visual novel, but I'll do it eventually. It's like, dude, you have to fucking read this shit. I remember Jose got to a point, without going into spoilers, it's after Shirogane has dinner with Marimo. If you've played Alternative, you know what I'm talking about. But it's after the dinner scene. I remember Jose was like, yeah, I just had to put it down for a few days. Like, I just couldn't play it anymore. It's like, I completely understand. Oh, man. Like, I can think of very, very few works of fiction that have left me, like, that have just hit me on such an emotional level so many times. Like, playing Muv-Luv actually hurt. Remembering some of the things from Muv-Luv, like, oh. Like, I remember Clay and I were talking about one particular scene. Again, without going into spoilers, you'd probably know what I'm talking about when I say the chomp. I remember we were talking about it, he's like, dude, I'm actually shaking. Like, I remember the night where I saw that. Oh, we need to change the conversation. It's like, I love this thing. I really fucking do. So The Day After, it's like, I had to talk about Alternative for a little bit, like, that's what it's about. So The Day After takes place after the ending of Unlimited. This is still that timeline. Alternative 5, now referred to officially as Operation Babylon. Operation Babylon has gone off, and this is what the world is like now. The beta are gone for about 3 months, and then they come back. The oceans are fucked. A lot of the world, I think they said, like, most of Eurasia is underwater. Most of North America has been salted. Like, Japan is underwater. Essentially, right now, the Japanese Empire is located in Seattle and Hawaii. Not in actual Japan, because that is a lost cause. Most of the world is. And everyone talks about Operation Babylon, like, yeah, that didn't work. This is the Babylon disaster. We thought we had a chance. We thought this was our last hope. And it fucked us worse than anything else. We are morons. So, episode 0 it takes place like a couple weeks or so, maybe not even that long. It might just be like a few days or like the week before the beta come back. And it's about, so I am going to be spoiling episode 0, and then, you know, for the rest of it, I'll keep it a bit more light and loose with spoilers. But with episode 0, it's about, let me rewind and get my head back, because my brain just kind of stopped and my tongue got really tight. I think that was me tying my tongue, not untying it. Whoops. Anyways, point. It's about an aircraft carrier kind of stranded in the middle of the ocean because everything went to shit after the bombs fell. They end up saving somebody that they're able to find. Like, you know, this is something that's giving us a lot of hope. We were actually able to find somebody. Maybe there's more survivors out there. It feels like we're here for a reason kind of thing. Then a beta hive attacks, and everyone but the person they saved dies. So when I know I've talked about it in like a Car Talk video where I was like, yeah, this has a very Rogue One feel. It really, really does. These people do not make it. With the exception of the one survivor, who is not the main character of The Day After, but she is still a recurring character who shows up and does cool shit. And she does get some closure with what happened on the JFK. That was the name of the aircraft carrier. I don't think I said that. So what The Day After is really about, like its core themes. To me, there's a core three. Wait. 3 or 4. I know I actually wrote these down. Let me see. Yeah. So to me, it's core 3 themes, not in any particular order. Number 1, what does it mean to be a hero? Like when you do cool things and people start to look up to you and they start to really trust what you have to say. What does that really mean? And like how do you use that? Should you use that? Are you someone who should use that to your advantage for the greater good? Are you someone who should be like, well, I mean, I'm not really a hero? It's like, yeah, like I did cool things, but I had people with me the entire time. I don't deserve all the credit. Hell, I don't deserve any of the credit. But you're the person who keeps getting it, so it's all on your shoulders. It's your responsibility. How do you handle this? Which I actually really like when they focus on that. That's especially in episode 2. Like, it's a little bit in episode 1, and then episode 2 is like really focusing on that, and then episode 3 continues it. But I actually thought it was really interesting. Second of the big themes are how far a person is willing to go to survive, and how far you are willing to sink. I guess kind of to put it another way, are you willing to lose your humanity to stay alive? Like in part of the backstory of like the main character and his squad, what you find out very quickly is he was in a squad of like 5 people after everything went down, and only 2 of them made it. And a big part of the story is him remembering what actually happened to those other 3 people, one in particular. Because one of them, he's like, okay, I kind of remember this. Okay, I kind of remember this. I don't remember what happened to you. It's really hazy. And I don't know why I don't remember. And I don't like that I don't remember. It's like, this is so important. And I keep having these nightmares of what happened. And like, I'll wake up in these cold sweats. I will wake up screaming. And it's like my part of me wants to remember what happened, and the rest of me is repressing it and trying to keep it from me. What the fuck went down that day? I do like that. And then when you actually see, like, this is what happened. This is what they went through. But then also when you start getting into the more kind of politic area, which, I mean, politics aren't really a theme of the series, but it is. I mean, because I guess, like, to me, politics does not sound like this is a theme. It's more just like this is like a regular action, or like this. That is, well, I mean, a lot of the action is also fighting beta. But politics is a very, very key element of the story, and I really, really like it when they get into it. Well, I mean, it does tie into the third theme, so I guess let's just put a pin in there real quick. But when you do get into some of the political conversations and the ideologies, and especially like at the end of part 2 and very much in part 3, when you start getting into the international conflicts, how far are you willing to go to ensure your safety, to ensure the safety of your people? And I think that's really interesting shit. But I think my favorite theme of The Day After is that age-old debate of idealism versus pragmatism. Excuse me. Because to me, that's really what it's about. The other two things, because I feel like survival and, like, you know, how far you're willing to go is the main theme. No, excuse me. Like, looking at it on paper, I feel like that's kind of supposed to be the main theme, the main takeaway. But to me, it really is idealism and pragmatism, because that's what a lot of the conflicts are. There's parts where it's like, okay, the people aren't getting enough food. but we actually don't have enough to give everyone. What do? Do we, like, we ration to the soldiers because the soldiers keep us safe because they fight the beta. And if we don't have the soldiers and we don't fight the beta, all the other people are dead. But it is really fucked up that we can't feed our people. I mean, they talk about the ethics of child soldiers. And on the one hand, they're like, these are kids. You don't throw kids into a war. You don't indoctrinate children to fight your wars for you. What, which, I mean, it does kind of also get to the how far are you willing to go to survive. It's, what kind of empire are we? I mean, we're not really much of a Japanese empire anymore, but it's like, what kind of nation are we that we train kids for combat and then throw them to the wolves with barely any training and hoping for the best? What the fuck? But there's another argument, which is really interesting to me, that they actually, like, defend it. And the defense is essentially, it's like, okay, like, the training thing, like, that's bullshit. Like, we're not going to fight you on that. But in a situation like this, where there's so much chaos and uncertainty, we don't really want people growing up in this. What can help these kids is giving them structure, is giving them something to believe in, something to fight for, building camaraderie amongst themselves early, so that way when they do have to fight, because they're going to have to, they already have that instilled in them of, this is what I need to do to win, this is what I need to do to protect my teammates, because I can't do it alone, no man is an island. But as like an element, as a wing, we can take this foe down. And when you put in that structure, when you put in that early discipline, they're probably more likely to follow orders down the line, which is always something you need in a soldier. And also, there's less of a chance of them just going rogue or like causing riots or any of the other bullshit that some of the civilians are doing. It's not great that we do this, but there is a pragmatic reason. You're like, oh, that's really interesting. Later down the road, like when it comes down to like the French and Canada. I don't know why I said French. I was trying to say the French and the Canadians and also France and Canada at the same time. But France is one of the only world superpowers left, and they're not really a superpower anymore. It's like they have this crazy famine. Most of their people are starving. And France, like, we need aid, and you aren't giving it to us, so we're gonna make you give it to us. And there's a lot of crazy shit that happens there, and then it becomes kind of clear that we're headed to war. Okay, so humanity should not be fighting amongst itself right now because of the beta and the fact that the world is completely to shit. What do you mean we're about to start a war? This is dumb. This is insane. Why can't we negotiate? And as they try to negotiate, it becomes clear that you can't give them quite what it's like. This is what we need. Okay. We can give you like, well, this is what we think you need, and this is what we can actually give. So how about that? No. Well, fuck you. Well, fuck you. Blah, blah, blah. And then you get to kind of the Japanese politics of how one side is saying we need to prevent war at all costs because war is bad. War amongst ourselves when the world is fucked is bad. War amongst ourselves when the world is fucked and there's still a beta threat to deal with is not only bad, it's stupid. We need to stop this. We need to solve this conflict now. Another side going, war isn't the worst thing to happen. I mean, think about it. We have more manpower. We have better supplies. We actually have food. We can beat them. Then, after we beat them, maybe get a little bit of territory. Which means, more room for us. More opportunities. Also, we beat them in a military conflict. We kind of absorb their military into ours. Now we have more soldiers, so we can fight the beta more efficiently. It also, if we were to do that, it gives us more expendables. Because we don't want to lose our people. We don't want to lose anyone, but we don't want to lose our soldiers. But if we lose them, I'm not going to shed a tear. You might, because you're a bleeding heart. But I'm not. Because I'm not concerned about them. I'm concerned about us. How do I keep us going? They talk about how when the bombs were first going off and the world was getting fucked, there was this guy who had information. He was like the professor from the Luved trilogy, who's possibly my favorite character in the series. Luved is one of those where I'm like, there's a lot of contenders for my favorite character. My favorite character in The Day After is Marmo, who's amazing, who's a recurring character in the original trilogy. And I'm like, I like the new cast. I don't like them as much as the originals, but it's like, I still like the new cast, but like every time Marmo is on screen, I'm like, this is Kino shit. Sorry, I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, so he has a report from the professor. It's like, I've done my research into this plan. This is why I think this plan is fucking stupid. This is what will happen in Alternative 5. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. And because she was so smart, basically everyone who knew her and read the report said, oh, this is fact. This is not just someone, like, it was presented by a lot of people as like, oh, she's just mad because her plan isn't working and she doesn't want to look like a failure. What are you gonna do? You're gonna cry? Oh, you're now making up bullshit and trying to slanderize our great plan? It's stupid. But the people who knew her were like, no, she's not that petty. I mean, she can be pretty petty, but no, this is probably going to happen. So we started looking at this and I was like, I need to ensure the survival of the Empire. So I need to make sure that a lot of important people and industries are able to survive this shit. And 2, I need to make sure there's less mouths to feed. So, I'm going to evacuate a lot of important people and industries to one area where, according to the report, they will be safe. Then I'll let other expendables get evacuated to somewhere where they won't. And if they make it, they make it. That's great for them. But when they probably don't, that's more resources for the rest of us. And that shit to me is really, really interesting. I love those kinds of conflicts about idealism versus pragmatism. Like, this is what we want to do, but this is what will actually help. And trying to find the compromise in the middle, and a lot of times you just can't. When I don't want to be like, well, The Day After focuses on this, it's great, and when it doesn't, it's ass. Because I don't think, I really enjoyed my time with it. But those are easily my favorite elements. Or, focusing on the backstory, because I actually liked that. I think I know where this is going, and then it turns out I was wrong, and then it turns out I was right. She's like, oh, this is what, alright, this is what's gonna happen. This is what happened. Oh, okay, I was wrong. Alright, I'll take that. And they're like, okay. His memories weren't quite accurate. This is what actually happened. I'm like, oh. So I was right the first time. But it actually reminds me of something, because I was talking to my friends. I don't remember why we were talking about South Park, but we were talking about the token Tolkien thing, and I was like, okay, so here's the thing. For the longest time, my first few years of watching South Park, I heard the L. I deadass thought this kid's name was Tolkien. And then I realized I was wrong. His name was actually Token, and that was the joke. Then South Park comes out and they're like, no, which, also part of the joke. I don't think this is them saying, no, it was this way the whole time. But it's like, no, his name is actually Tolkien. You're like, his family wouldn't actually name him Token Black. Are you insane? It was like, so I was right. So I was completely wrong, but it turns out I was right. Nobody's smart but me. I don't remember why I said that. I don't remember where I was going for with that. But it was the backstory. I was wrong, I was right, but then I was wrong, but then I was right. So my overall kind of thoughts on The Day After, or my overall thoughts on Love in general. Extra is okay at first. Once you've played Alternative, you start to realize how important Extra is. There's a lot of things that are set up, a lot of foreshadowing happens, to the point where if I did not play Extra, I would not have enjoyed it as much. Not to say that there's a whole lot of shit that I would be like, well, this doesn't make any sense anymore, but it really comes full circle in a lot of areas, and I think it makes it just so strong. Like, okay, I'm gonna tangent for a little bit about Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is fucking stupid. This is coming from someone who will say that Kingdom Hearts 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. It is probably the game I've played more than any other. This is coming from someone who will say Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Like, if I made a list of my favorite games, the two of them would be right next to each other. They would be tied. 2 is more fun. 1 has that Disney charm to it. And I think they're both spectacular. And as much as I'll talk about like it being dumb, I actually think 2 works really well. I'm not even going to go on a tangent about the other shit that happens later. I mean, a little bit. At the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora gets that super Keyblade, where it's like, it unlocks the darkness in people's hearts or whatever the fuck. And he's like, Kyrie's inside me? And realizes her heart is inside of him, so he has to stab himself with that super Keyblade to release Kyrie's heart, which means her heart goes back to her. But by doing so, he also releases his own heart. So Sora becomes a Heartless. And I actually really like that scene. We were just kind of playing as a Heartless for a couple of minutes. Like, it's so cool. I fucking love Kingdom Hearts 1. Hollow Bastion is the... KH1 Hollow Bastion is the best world in the entire series. World that never was in 2, fantastic. There's some other, like, really good ones, but, like, that to me is the peak of Kingdom Hearts. No question. Again, in terms of, like, story and hypeness and the atmosphere. Although, again, the World That Never Was is, like, probably second. It's fantastic. Maybe End of the World. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent in my tangent. Let's try and keep my tangent slightly focused. Now I'm trying to, like, I know what my point is with Kingdom Hearts. What's my end point? Oh, that's a problem. We gotta put pins everywhere. But anyways, he does that. Sora becomes a Heartless, which, as we learn in Kingdom Hearts 2, means he now has a nobody. Which is also its own confusing shit, because you're like, wait, so his heart disappeared, but now this is what's left, so his body, like, if you play Kingdom Hearts 1, it looks like his body is now turned into the Heartless. Then when Kairi hugs him, it's like he gets his heart back, and so he just turns back into Sora. With Sora's body, not Roxas's body. And Roxas, despite being clearly created in Hollow Bastion, is not there. He somehow woke up in Twilight Town. Doesn't make any sense. And Roxas looks like Ven, because Ven's heart was in Sora. But, oh, I remember what my endpoint with this is. It's like, I know what I was saying about Kingdom. I was like, how does this tie back into Muffled? Oh, I remember now. Pin. So, Roxas looks like Ven because Ven's heart was in Sora, but when Sora released his heart in Kairi's, there was no semblance that another heart was being released, but somehow it did. And Roxas looks like Ven, even though he's not a heart, he's a body, so he should just be Sora's body, which means it should just look like Sora. The point I am making with this tangent is Kingdom Hearts has a lot of fucking plot holes. And as much as Kingdom Hearts and Nomura will try to make it seem like, look, this shit was all planned. Look, like, you see in, like, 2.8 how Mickey got hit by the thing and now his, like, clothes are tattered. He was like that in Kingdom Hearts 1. See, we've thought about this. We had to think, why is Mickey like this when we're making the game? And that's how we came to this. It all makes fucking sense. Roxas looks just like Ven. Well, that's because Ven was in Sora. We've thought about all this. And I'm just like, but Roxas would have then been made in Hollow Bastion. Sora getting hugged by Kairi would give him his heart back, but not his body. His body would have been a nobody, not a Heartless. So this just doesn't make any sense. Maybe there's an explanation somewhere. There probably is, and I'm probably not going to buy it anyways. I don't think it makes a lick of sense. And the more Kingdom Hearts tries to be like, this is how it's all been planned the whole time, the more I'm like, no, you didn't plan any of this. You are writing by the seat of your pants, trying to make it seem like you're a genius. And it, for me, maybe it does for other people, but for me it does not work. playing Love Alternative made me realize all of this shit, probably not like The Day After, but like this trilogy was planned out. You can tell the things and extra that lead into Alternative. And the moment you're like, this is such a minor thing, like this is kind of like a dumb little scene. Oh, this is fucking pivotal later. I would have missed this. I would have missed how genius this is, just how well this ties together. The fact that this has to be a visual novel. I know there's an animated adaptation, and it's just of Alternative, which is dumb to me, because, like, no, like, without Unlimited, it doesn't feel like, you don't get the satisfaction of the New Game Plus shit. Without Extra, you don't get the, like, this is why I want to go home, this is the dumb shit that I miss, and then you get some of the other parts where it all kind of comes full circle, you're like, you miss out on that too. And then some of just the other crazy ideas are like, this had to be played as a visual novel, because it actually, like, takes its medium into consideration and its plot, and it's so genius. That's some of the shit I love about Muv-Luv, and why I think that original trilogy is phenomenal. The Day After isn't quite like that, but I think it's good, and I liked it a lot. When I looked at it, I was like, yeah, like, it focuses on a lot of politics, you know, on kind of the, like, high political level, on, like, the level of the soldiers. Like, it's kind of like Baby Log. And I don't mean that to be like, yeah, it's just like, it does this, but it doesn't do it well. It's more just, Legend of the Galactic Heroes is fucking phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's only like 100 episodes. I think it's like 110 or something, which is, I mean, it's only a third of Gintama. It's only slightly longer than Monogatari. But it's so good. If you like political intrigue, if you like war dramas, if you like space navies, go watch Log. But I feel like this is not to the degree of Legend of Galactic Heroes, but it's still quite good and kind of gives me similar vibes. My biggest complaint, I guess, here's my two big complaints. One is that it's just not finished yet. And I went in thinking it was. Now, that's not really to say, like, oh yeah, this is like a major problem with it. It's like, I just wish I had known that, because otherwise I would have said, I'm going to wait until it's done and I'm just going to do the whole thing. Really wish I had known that beforehand, because there's a lot of loose ends. Because, like, as I was playing episode 3, I was like, we're getting to the climax, but there's a lot of shit that is just, there's a lot of shit that needs to happen, and we just don't have time for that. What's the deal? And I found out, oh, it's because there's an episode 4, which they're still working on, and this came out like 10 years ago, but episode 4 just got a trailer at the end of 2021, so it's coming? We'll see, I guess. But, my other problem, which is an actual problem, is the sound design is fucking weird. There's times where, because I didn't really mess with the options a whole lot, but there's times that, like, you're watching a scene and you can hear the music in the background, you can hear the dialogue perfectly. And then there's times where the voicing just gets really loud and you can't hear the music. And then there's other times where the voice gets really quiet, but the music is just blaring in the back. And it's not on purpose, or if it was, I think it's dumb. Like, it didn't feel like, okay, like, we're really trying to emphasize the music in this scene. We're really trying to emphasize the voice actors. No, it just was kind of jank. And it happened a lot. It wasn't just like, oh, there's like one scene where it happened. It happened frequently, and it happened across all 4 episodes. Maybe that was just a problem on my end, and for other people, like, they don't have that issue, and it's just my computer. Maybe. But it was something that got annoying really quickly, especially whenever For You Who Departs plays, because that is it's either that or Carry On, and my favorite song, Muv-Luv. But For You Who Departs is one of my favorite songs. Like, just like any, like, game or fictional, like, medium. Because anytime I hear it, I just get emotional. I get, like, the goosebumps. It's just that, like, man, what's going on? What's about to happen? Because sometimes it's not a super crazy scene. Other times it really is. I really like that fucking song. But here, where it's like, okay, like, the music's playing, we got shit going on, and then, I can barely hear the music because the voice acting just decided to get really loud all of a sudden. Well, we've kind of fucked up the moment, the scene. And it's like, I can't just turn it up, because if I turn up the volume, it's going to turn up all the volume. It's like, I could really go into the settings, but I don't want to do that just for one scene. That just seems like a waste. Yeah. But if that's my biggest problem, is that it's not finished yet, and yeah, sometimes the sound design was a bit jank, then it's clear that I liked it. So if you are interested in Muv-Luv, play the originals, like play the trilogy, because The Day After is very much, this is an interesting side piece. But I do think it's interesting. If you do like the trilogy, give it a read. I mean, if you want to wait until it's done, like I would have, absolutely do that. But I genuinely think it's worth your time.